Hey guys, so in today's video, I thought we could take a little bit of a break from the usual informative and educational content that I'm usually putting out for you guys here on Kantan Japan, and just have more of a sit down, one-to-one vlog kind of video, because I wanted to tell you guys all about my new hobby, which is learning to play the shamisen. So as we go through this video, I think I'm just going to try and preempt and answer some of the questions that you guys at home might have about the shamisen. So I think maybe the first one might be, why are you learning the shamisen? So the first time that I ever heard a shamisen, I believe I was maybe around 9 or 10 years old, and it was playing the video game Mystical Ninja starring Goemon on the Nintendo 64. Now that game is based on a very common Japanese folk tale about a ninja, real life ninja called Ishikawa Goemon. And everything in the game is based around kind of feudal era Japan. But the thing that really stuck out to me for the whole experience playing the game, as much as I enjoyed it, was the music. The music in that game, to me at the time, was just so unusual, so wacky and bizarre. And even to this day, it remains one of my most favourite soundtracks of any game, movie or television series or anything that I've ever heard. So that was really the first time I'd heard the instrument, even though it was like in a digital kind of MIDI form. The twanginess, the liveliness of the instrument really interested me and made me want to kind of find out a little bit more about it. So as I got a bit older and I got more into music, I did a little bit of research and I was able to figure out that the instruments used in those songs from that game were the shamisen and also the koto, which is another Japanese traditional instrument, which is a little bit more akin to something like a harp. And both of these instruments actually come from the group of instruments called wagaki, which basically means Japanese instruments. Okay, so at this point in the video, I can feel your judgmental glares and I can tell what you're going to ask me next. Why, if I was 10 years old when I first heard this instrument and had an interest, did it take me till the age of 30 to begin learning it? Well, unfortunately, the answer to that is not very clear, but let me give it a go anyway. So the first reason would probably be that I grew up in England and shamisen there are just not very common. You walk into any instrument shop and this is probably the last thing that you'd ever expect to see in the store. And then maybe the second reason is that my initial interest actually was to play the koto, one of the two instruments that I mentioned earlier. But kind of upon a bit more research, other than the koto being extremely, abhorrently expensive, it just looked way too difficult. And I'm just a bit too lazy. So I just decided before I even tried the thing, it was too difficult and I was not going to try it. So if anyone that's been watching this channel for a while, or maybe you saw my video about working full-time in Japan, then you've probably figured out that I'm actually a musician. I've been playing guitar for about 17 years. So when I decided to try and learn another instrument, my initial thought was the koto, because I just like the sound of it. But then I thought perhaps the shamisen, being the form factor that it is, it's a lot more similar to guitar. So maybe some of the skills that I've already acquired after almost 2 decades of playing that instrument would perhaps be transferable to this. I was wrong. So while that might be partially true, the actual technique required to play the shamisen is quite a lot different to guitar. But I'm going to be coming back to that a little bit further in the video, so make sure you don't go anywhere. So what is a shamisen? So as I'm sure you've already been able to figure out by now, the shamisen is a traditional Japanese 3-stringed instrument. And the name shamisen actually means 3 strings, and it's also known as sangin, which again means 3 strings. So I don't know a whole lot about the history of these instruments, but from the little bit that I have read, they're roughly about 400 years old, and they actually originate from an earlier instrument called the sanshin, which is native to the islands of Okinawa, or the old Ryukyu kingdom. And the sanshin was actually originally imported from China. So there's actually quite a lot of different genres of shamisen music that have developed over the centuries, but most of them tend to be played only on 3 different types of shamisen, which are all roughly the same instrument, but they tend to be different sizes and have different kind of features that make them unique. So the shamisen I have here is a gyuta shamisen, and it's the middle-sized of the 3 main types, with the smallest being the nagauta and the largest being the tsugaru. So from what I can tell, they're mainly categorized by the size of their necks. The gyuta shamisen here has a chuzao, which basically means middle-sized neck. The nagauta shamisen has a hosozao, and hoso comes from the word hosoi, which means thin, And Tsugaru has a futozao, and futoi is the word for thick. So let's take a look at some of the parts of the shamisen body. So this part at the top here, which if you've seen a guitar before, you might call the head of the shamisen, but it's actually called the tenjin, and tenjin is actually spelled exactly the same way as the name of one of the biggest gods in the Shinto religion. And tenjin, the word, is spelled with the kanji meaning heavenly spirit or heavenly god. So you could say that this is perhaps the most important part of the shamisen. Now again, because I'm a guitarist, I'm going to compare everything about this instrument to a guitar. But what you might notice about these pegs up here, these tuning pegs, is they're enormous compared to the little metal stumps you usually get on an electric or an acoustic guitar. These are called the itomaki. Ito actually means string. Not these strings specifically, but just the word for thread or string in Japanese is ito. And maki means to turn. So this is the itomaki, the string turning device. And as you can see here, there is 3 of them. The one on the right side here tunes the highest string, the one over here tunes the lowest string, and the one on the left side tunes the middle string. So coming down from the tenjin, we have the neck of the shamisen, which is called the sao. And this goes all the way down and connects to the main body of the instrument, which is called the do. So on the front of the instrument here, there's quite a lot of stuff going on. So if you look at this little piece here, this is the koma, or the bridge, which traditionally would be made out of something like an ivory horn or a bone, something like that. But this is much more animal friendly. This is just a simple plastic bridge. And that also goes for the skin here, which is called the kawa. And the kawa, I believe, traditionally would be made out of cat skin in some cases. But again, don't worry, I assure you, this is a very nice eco-friendly synthetic plastic. So down on the bottom here, this is called the neo, which is a very complicated looking knot. But basically, it acts as an anchor for the strings, or the gen. So basically, the strings are hooked to the itomaki on the top end of the shamisen, but down the bottom here, they're actually woven through these smaller knots on the neo, and that is what gives the strings their tension. And finally, on the top side, we have the door kake, which is basically like a body cover. Now, as you can see, there isn't a door kake on every side, but on the top side is where your arm actually sits when you're playing the shamisen. So I guess as well as being an accessory, just to make it look a little bit more colourful, it does actually act as a bit of protection and stops your arm rubbing away at the wood. So that was the shamisen body, but now let's take a look at how you actually play the shamisen. And in order to do so effectively, or at all for that matter, you're going to need 3 essential things. Probably most importantly is the boccie, which is a type of plectrum, albeit slightly enormous. If I compare it to the guitar plectrums that I use on a daily basis, then there's just no real comparison to size. Now, while this does look like a murder weapon, I believe the idea behind the size of the boccie is just to provide a lot of force when you're striking the strings, because it's a very kind of percussive / melodic instrument. Although it has strings and it has notes, you get a lot of tone from the actual strike of the string. So when you have a lot of surface area in the pick, it really allows the string and the body to resonate a lot louder. And also the size of the handle, as you can see, when you hold it like this, you can really get a lot of force behind each hit. Perhaps second on the list is this little piece of knitwear, which is called a yubi kake. Yubi are your fingers, but kake, as we heard with door kake, it means cover. And this is a yubi kake, it's a finger cover. So basically you slide your finger and your thumb into the little parts here. And basically what this allows you to do is to easily slide your hand up and down the neck without any friction against your skin and the wood. So there's a lot of movements in shamisen where you're required to strike the string and quickly slide your finger up. And if you don't have the kake on, it's very difficult, especially after you've been playing for more than a couple of minutes. You get that kind of tacky sweat on your skin, and it really adds a lot to the friction, and it really decreases the ability to move at any kind of speed. So last but not least is this little rectangle of rubber. This is called the hiza gomu. Hiza means knee or thigh, and gomu means rubber. And basically all this does is it sits between your leg and the shamisen and stops the shamisen from slipping off your leg. So if you remember from earlier when I showed you the shamisen body, there's not actually anything on the bottom side of it. It's just very, very smooth wood, which means when you have it sat on your leg without the hiza gomu, it's going to slip off straight away. So once you've got your hizagomu under the shamisen to stop it from slipping off your leg, you've got your yubi khaki on to give you a bit of slide when going up and down the neck. It's next time to look at how to properly hold the boccie. But as you can probably see, other than its massive size, the handle is actually square, which means it's not the most comfortable thing to hold. And it's probably the thing I'm still kind of getting used to the most, but really especially compared to a guitar plectrum being so tiny. So the main thing with the boccie is that you need to keep a loose hand, or that's as far as I understand it, trying not to tense up. So basically you hold it with 3 fingers over the top, and your little finger actually comes around the bottom here and it curls into your palm. And once you've got that down, the flat of your thumb will sit roughly around here on the top side, and that should be roughly the grip for the boccie. Obviously it depends on hand size and all that kind of stuff. But once you've got that position and you've got your shamisen positioned correctly, you can just place the tip of the boccie on the string and pluck. So how do you tune a shamisen? So for me, I think the tuning of the shamisen is actually probably one of the easiest things to wrap your head around, because there's only 3 strings and the tunings don't get too crazy. And as far as I'm aware, there's only really 3 types of tuning that get used for most genres. So what I'm actually tuned to at the moment is called honchoshi, which is basically standard tuning. And I'm in the key of D. So if I play the first string, which is the bottom string here, this is D. The next string, or the second string, will be G, which is a perfect 4th above the root note. And then if I play the top note, the 3rd string here, this is another D note. So basically what I've got here is the top and the bottom strings are both D, and the middle string is tuned to a perfect 4th above the lower D. So the other 2 tunings are pretty straightforward as well. The first of which is called ni agari. Ni refers to the number 2, which in Japanese is ni, and on the shamisen that would be the 2nd string. And agari means to raise. So basically what happens here is the 2nd string is raised by a whole tone. So in my instance here, I would go from D, G, D to D, A, D. And now from the bottom string, the middle string is actually a perfect 5th above the root note. And for any guitar players out there, this would actually be the same tuning as the bottom 3 strings of a guitar if you were tuned to dropped D. The third of the common tunings is san sagari. San is the number 3 in Japanese and refers to the highest string on the shamisen. And sagari actually is the opposite of agari, means to lower. So in this case, I would tune the top string from D down a whole tone to C. So in D san sagari tuning, I would have D, G, and C. Okay guys, so that's pretty much everything that I've learned about shamisen up till now. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope that perhaps it gave some of you a little bit of curiosity to go out there and try the instrument for yourself. So just to finish up, I wanted to answer one more question which I think you guys are probably thinking, and that is, how long have I been playing the shamisen for? So I guess technically the very first time I ever touched a shamisen was roughly 3.5 months ago, when I went to my first ever trial lesson for my shamisen classes. And since then I've had 4 full 1-hour lessons, fully instructed hour lessons of shamisen. And up until about 6 weeks ago, I didn't actually have a shamisen in my house. So probably much to my teacher's dismay, at home I've probably only practiced about 8 to 10 hours. So let's just round all that up and say that I've been learning and playing for roughly 15 hours in total. So if the old adage of 10,000 hours to become a master in anything is true, then I've got a bloody long way to go. But just to play out this video, I'm going to play a little piece for you guys, and you can wholeheartedly judge me on my abysmal talents. And I'm hoping that if I'm still keeping this up in 1 year's time, then I'm going to make a second update to this video, and we can compare my ability now to how far I've come in a year's time. So stick around for that. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, then please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to Kantan Japan, and click the bell notification for instant updates on future videos. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video.